but also like stressed that that's going to affect me, you know? Did you ever watch Saturday Night Live?
No, but I know what it is.
Yeah, there's like what you might call a classic sketch from back when Chris Farley was alive and was on the show, and he interviewed Paul McCartney. And the whole joke of the sketch was that he was way, way nervous and a huge Beatles fan. And so he's sitting there talking to Sir Paul McCartney, right? And it is the legit Paul McCartney. He was the guest that night. And all he can do is just there and be like, you remember when you were in the Beatles? And Paul McCartney's like, yeah. He's like, that was awesome. And so I'm worried that that's really just going to turn into me. I'm just going to be like, Ross, you remember that time you played bagpipes really great? Oh, that was so cool. So I'm going to try really hard to not let my fandom make me too nervous to talk to you.
I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it'll be okay.
Well, listen, I've been kind of like sheepish about it, like nervous to ask you, but wanting to ask you onto the show, like ever since I started the show, partly because I loved the interview you did with the Chanarant guys a while ago.
All right.
I think that was recent after the Roke had first come out, if I remember right.
Yeah, it was recent. Maybe it was around the time the book was coming out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I was on the promotion campaign.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I switched. Well, we could talk about it a bit more later, but I switched focus from non-pipe band people to as many pipe band people as I could, or piping people as I could.
Yeah,
was basically the.
That certainly makes sense. Yeah, there's it's a like a niche. It's funny that like I don't know if you found this, but it seems to me almost like we are. As a piping community, because we're kind of niche, there's also like an intense kind of loyalty there as well.
Yeah.
And so like, maybe you as an artist, and you know, I wouldn't know this, I'm just kind of assuming like you maybe do kind of have to like, you might have to ask yourself sometimes like, which audience am I working for here? Am I working for the general public or am I working for my piping people kind of thing?
Well, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, I'm always curious, with a high-profile, like, recording and performing, but also competing piper like yourself, what does a gig look like these days? Like, does Ross Miller still get, like, just, like, the random person who might not even know who you are? They just want a piper for their wedding or for their funeral or something, and they just, like, email you and just, like, you know, just, like, I need a piper, and you're a piper who lives nearby. Do you still get gigs like that, or is it pretty much, like, people know who you are? You do, really?
No, yeah. That's... like I would say at least 50% of my income is like that. Yeah.
It's so funny, man, because like I imagine if I was there, you know, like if I was like a guest at the wedding or something, right? Just being like, do you guys realize who you hired? Do you even know how good you've got it that you got this piper for this gig? You know, no offense to any gigging piper, of course. Like I'm sure everybody's good at their craft, right? But be like, you could have got any random, you know, piper, but you got Ross Miller. Do you understand?
That's definitely the luck of, like, you know, not the luck of the draw, but you know, it's definitely a thing, and I talk about that quite often with my colleagues, and I've got a wedding band, and we talk about that. It's like they don't know. People don't know if they're good or not. Like it's where do you draw the line of what you're happy to provide?
Right, totally. And so like, but like it's got to be like, you strike me as a very like down to earth, you know, like humble, reasonable person, right? So I can't imagine that you'd ever be like a total prima donna about it or anything like that, right? But like, have you ever had an experience where, I don't know, somebody like treated you like almost as if like they were like double checking with you that you actually had credentials? Like, you know, like, hey, like you can do this, right? You know, like I really need somebody to play my daughter down the aisle when she's getting married. Can you handle that? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, have you? How long have you been playing? You know, like checking up on you, kind of thing.
Yeah, no. To be honest, not really. I think it's more like a kind of like, you know, because my website or whatever they're trying to kind of finding me through agency. It's kind of you're already ratified as someone who can play the pipe. So I don't think it's much of a thing. That's maybe more of it might even be more of a North American thing.
Yes. That may very well be my experience speaking, because I do, you know, personally, I run into that all the time.
Yeah, like checking that like people can actually do the job. Maybe, I don't know.
Yes, that's
especially if it's something you're not so like, you know, you don't know much about, maybe as well.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I think that's got to be the case. It's certainly the case for me personally. It's got to be the case for a lot of people up here that when somebody hires you for bagpipes, this might be the one and only time they actually encounter bagpipes in real life for their whole life. So.
Yeah. No, for sure.
So, do you listen to a lot of bagpipes?
Yes, I would say over the years, actually, I've listened to less bagpipes.
Mm-hmm.
As I don't know why. Like I used to when I'm growing up. Like you know how like Apple has changed from like
Mm-hmm.
you had to buy all the iTunes,
Right,
and then
totally.
like now it's like Apple Music or Spotify or whatever. But when I was growing up, you used to have to like buy the songs for 79p to put them on your iPod.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of thing. And I used to buy like all the world CDs and all this kind of stuff, all the pipe band CDs. So when I shuffle on my phone, if I get into the car and it like defaults to
Mm-hmm.
kind of factory settings, I get loads and loads of pipe band stuff all the time and solo piping and things. But now I certainly wouldn't listen to that. I maybe have a YouTube session now and then after competitions or whatever. But
Sure.
no, I listen to certainly probably bagpipe based trad music. As well, but no, that's probably what I listen to most. But then, kind of just edging into just general kind of trad music. Like if I was walking along the street, that's what I'd probably be listening to.
Yeah.
It's just like just kind of hardcore trad like music with other instruments. I think is more what I mean, rather than just like solid piping.
Yeah, I got what
unless
you're saying,
I'm trying to learn a tune or a pibroch or something.
Naturally, yeah. I kind of try to internalize it.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, as we roll into the episode, maybe we'll hear a sample of I thought it would make a lot of sense to just hear a sample of the opening track of the Roke, that Reels track. That one as an example, like, do you think that maybe listening to other trad music and other music in general, does that influence then stuff that you write and that you make? Like, if you were only listening to competition solo piping, would the Roke ever have even happened? And if it did, would it sound a lot different?
Yeah, no, it would absolutely have not ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
You can use ideas. You know, kind of what works well. Have you heard things that are successful? You try and kind of apply that to your own thing as well.
Yeah.
I think that's for sure. But having the right people on board as well to like make it sound good, because all I have to do is play the tune when I know that the people around me are actually good.
Right. That's something I wanted to ask you about. Maybe like a really good example of it would be I don't know. Far be it for me to like pass any kind of judgment. Of course, like it's not like I'm like qualifying your work, of course, right? But for me personally, I find that the track number 3 on the album, Granny Betty's, that one is the track that of all of them is constantly running in my head. Which is interesting to me because like it's not like it's crazy fast finger work or anything. Like it's pretty sparse and simple, but it's something about how melodic it is. It's just beautiful, and it really is an earworm for me. It gets stuck in there, and I always wonder, like, to what degree did you sit down and write on a piece of paper exactly what you wanted? Oh shoot, I was gonna remember your pianist's name. What is his name? Was it Rory Matheson? Was he playing piano on that track?
Rory Matheson. Yeah.
So to what degree did you write down exactly what you wanted Rory to play? Or to what degree was it more like, hey, Rory, here's my melody line. Will you, and then see what Rory comes up with for the piano? Yeah,
basically exactly that, the second option. So I wrote the first tune in that for my granny, and then I found another tune, like the 3-4 marches, it's in the Scots Guards book, from, and it's about, like, you can see it's Faror Strue, it's called, and the Strue hill is right opposite my granny's house, so you can see it. So it's like kind of trying to make it kind of tied together.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And then and then he then like added as a company. And I was like, oh, but it was more. I guess it was more like, oh, can you come in this bit, maybe kind of like high, and then like fill it out more here, and then like kind of do that, or can you maybe play the tune the first time through the 3/4 march, and then I'll come back in for a bit of impact. Like you have a bit kind of an idea of a structure in your head, but I certainly because these guys know a lot more about it than I do, and I'm not going to pretend that I do, but like I know what sounds good and what I like and what I don't like, so they would maybe give me options of like, what about this or what about that, and then you're like, oh, the second one kind of thing. It's maybe more of a kind of thing.
Yeah. Again, it's not like it's up to me to pass judgment, right? But I can imagine that like maybe that's part of why it's such a great track, is that like it came out of open collaboration, and so the parts really play together nicely because that's kind of how they developed.
Yeah, no, I think so. Yeah, and I would hope that that's what the whole thing is like. Is like that was the kind of the process for everything apart from the piano and pipe tracks. I worked with the guitarist to like. We sat down in my house and I was like, this is the tunes we're going to play, this is the order, this is how many times, like this is kind of like how I'm feeling the groove, and then he would like write the chords and the kind of rhythm, and then we went into a rehearsal and told everyone else what they were going to play.
Gotcha.
Like the two of us kind of say, oh the drums come in here, or could you do a bit here, and that kind of thing. But like we really let the musicians who you've kind of chosen to be there like actually pick what they're going to play, or so it makes it more kind of real rather than, because like I can't tell someone who plays the guitar like how to play the guitar better, but I can tell them like when to play it.
I think there are some artists out there though who would still tell them, even though they didn't know what they were talking about, they'd say do it better, So
yeah, well, there's that, I guess, but there's also like and from you can have a basic idea of how the chord structure would be, but then they can also come to you and say, oh, actually, I think this chord would work better, or what do you think of this chord, and it makes it more of a kind of collaborative thing. But also just creates like a better maybe energy and kind of vibe than like scoring the whole thing to the heavens. Right. Like every instrument scored from start to finish, like that feels a bit kind of too rigid for trad music just in general. Like I don't really know many bands that would do that. They'd have obviously chord charts, but like you would, even if you like you were playing with bands, you would like select what you were playing based on the chord chart if you were the bassist, or if you're the pianist. It's not like you wouldn't tend to get like, here's the bass line that you must play.
That's interesting. That like I let's see, who's that Gaita player? I want to say Carlos Nunez. Is that the right first name?
There's Carlos Nunez, or was it Ansel Lorenzo?
Ansel Lorenzo, that's right. He's amazing too. I think I'm thinking of Carlos Nunez.
Yeah, Carlos Nunez writes a lot of like music and kind of tries to like not tries to perform it, performs it. Yeah.
Maybe it's reductive, but is Carlos Nunez the one who's bald on top with long hair around the edges? I think that's the one I'm thinking of. Yes. but I think it was him who said something about, I think he said something like the magic of, and I think he was saying Celtic music, he said like the magic of it is that it's community music, right? Just kind of talking about how it's all collaborative. It's all collaborative, right? And I wonder if that's generally applicable to trad as well, that like when it's done right, it's done as a community in a collaborative way.
No, I would say so. Certainly, as you say, it comes from a place of people. I guess the very origins of it is just like people sitting around like the fire. If you want to have the idyllic Scottish thing, right? People sitting around playing a bit of the kind of diddly dee.
Yeah,
is
a bit of the diddly dee. I love that.
is kind of like where it's all kind of stemmed from.
Sitting around
people
diddling,
have taken that, and people have kind of taken that and kind of ran with it, modernized it, or like being like, oh, that's that tune from there. I'll play it, but I'll play it differently. And then the next person hears it and learns it like that, and they pass it on to their person, who then kind of takes it and runs it again. So how the tune started hundreds of years ago is not how it is now. Yeah. But then it's also not how it will be in 100 years' time, I guess.
Right,
which
totally.
is why it probably all still survives. It's the same goes for just like pure piping as well. But like kind of like competition pipe, not competition pipe, but like, yeah, any kind of pipe tune. It's not how like you hear like the kind of top bands at the time play the music, and then like the lower maybe grade bands play that music 5 years down the line, and then the grade one bands, if you like, come out with a new thing, and then 5 years down the line the lower grade bands are playing that again,
It's
and it kind of that's how it develops. Yeah.
Absolutely. Though it does occur to me like, and this may well be like my relative inexperience, but like to me from where I'm sitting, it does feel very much like you maybe have a foot in each of two kind of different ways of doing music. Because like on the one hand, there is that like it's constantly shifting, always changing, so many different kinds of ways to do a tune from piper to piper, but also from time to time, etc. And then the other foot is in like this, if you're going to walk up to a judge and hand them the setting for a tune, you're going to play it exactly as it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, yeah, and that's the thing, and I think that makes it's about, I guess, maybe try to diversify yourself as a musician and piper, but also just like that's what you've got to play at that time. So if you want to play in that competition, you've got to play how you've got to play in that competition. If you want to play in the Inveraray pipe band, you've got to play exactly how Stuart Little tells you to play. But if you're playing on your own, in like my band, I can play exactly how I want to play. Or if I'm playing in the Chili Pipers, I play how like I'm told to play in the Chili Pipers, or I kind of feel that I should play in the Chili Pipers.
It's kind of cool that you get like different modes of Ross Miller playing music from in like different contexts.
No, yeah, for sure. That's why I like it as well. That's like the way my kind of life is not just like you're not just doing what you're told, or but there is like that kind of discipline as well. Yeah, because I enjoy that too.
No, it did surprise me a little bit with that track Granny Betty's. That like I don't know. To me, it seems like if you were going to write on paper, like here's my plan. I'm going to play a bagpipe plus piano duet. Then I would assume that you'd be going with small pipes of some kind. I would assume you weren't going to go with Highland pipes. Now it works. It's awesome. Like what an amazing track. Like I say, it's my favorite track on there, especially when you get a little bit of scratch on that high A and stuff. And honestly too, Ross, like one of the things that really strikes me is like one of the most beautiful things about the track is when the pipes have cut out and then when they come back in and you've got that moment of not tuned madness, before the chanter cuts into.
The big build up.
Exactly. The buildup is so good with that dissonance. But like if you had described it to me without, actually playing it, I would have thought like, no, that's why it won't work. You got to go with small pipes, right? So that you can come in tune and stuff. But no, this is like, it actually works really well. So how does a Highland pipe and piano duet even start to come together? Like, do you just turn up the amp on the piano real loud, or are you sitting back with a Blair chanter that you can turn down? For the jam sessions, I mean.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we did. Yeah, that's exactly what we did. I actually have one of those. I've got a Blair chanter now, but at the time when we were doing that, I had one of those Ross electric chanters. The ones with the box on the top of them.
Yeah,
like it's
classic.
Like a total retro thing.
Yeah, it's like the original electronic chanter, right?
Yeah. I had it for years and years, and so I just used that, and I just had that at B flat, and I just had I just literally had that on, and that's what we played. And then I just did it on the pipes. But there wasn't really a conscious decision to play Highland pipes ever. It was just like, I'm doing this album and the whole thing is on Highland pipes. It's not like, it wasn't like, I didn't even consider it for a second. Like looking back, playing it on smaller border pipes, like ever in any of the tracks. It was like, I'm doing them all on Highland pipes and I'm only going to play Highland pipes. I made that decision as well. I wasn't going to play whistle or anything there. It was just going to be pipes. Like pipes for the sake of pipes, and try and kind of be as diverse as possible with the music and with the arrangements as like possible. The idea originally was it was going to be like a bow tie of an album, if you like. So like it starts big and ends big, and it's like there was just going to be like that piano pipes duet in the middle, and it kind of does that if you look at it. But yeah, it kind of maybe goes in and out just a wee bit more than that in its finished form.
Oh, totally makes sense. Yeah, I mean that opening track, that the reels set, that's a great that's a big opening track, and what a way to pull people in, man.
Yeah,
I love that like the chanter and the percussion all come in just grooving right from the start. That's a great opening. Was that always going to be track one, or were there other options you played with?
No, that was always try on like the
Yeah.
kind of because it's like the drone. It's like I guess it's like the pipes starting up. You think, oh, here we go, it's another piping album, and then it's
Totally.
like bang, and it's not. Well,
Yeah.
I guess it is. It is, but it's also not.
Right. Totally. There also, since we mentioned Granny Betty's, there's another one on there that not only thematically, track 10 is the one that's called Mum and Dad's. I don't know, kind of, to me, seemed like it had kind of a similar feel in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
With either of those tracks, like these ones that, I don't know, there's something about how melodic they are, right? That very pretty melody line. Is there any kind of lyric running through your head? Like, did lyrics start to bubble up in your head? Or is this are you more of a like image kind of guy where you're like seeing scenes in people's faces as you're writing this music?
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's like, I'd love to say like, oh yeah, I was looking out over the hills and the highlands,
over the glen,
and like this melody came to me. I think it was a bit more than like more kind of thing, like just like walking along the street or something, like you kind of like start, and then I write it in like my notes as like E, like E D C, and then if it's like a long C, like write like a dash. And then, like,
yeah, that's your system.
That's kind of like how it goes. But and then sometimes you record like a voice note or whatever. But then you also look insane walking along the street, like diddling into your phone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, and there's that, and then like because I'd written a tune for my dad's 60th birthday, that I kind of like I had the beginnings of 68 March, and then it was coming up to his birthday. I was like, do you know what, I'm going to like finish this, make it nice, frame it, and give it to him for his birthday. But then it obviously meant that I had to do the same for my mum's 60th birthday like a year later.
You
so
had
I had to like
set the precedent.
You set a precedent. It's also a great cheap present.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
if you're good at it,
you just
whip it out.
Write a tune, and so and I guess I've probably got like bits and bobs of other I've always there's bits and bobs and tunes kind of input, like Sibelius files of half-written tunes and stuff. So if someone's like, can you write a tune, or as I say, there's an event coming up, you go in and go, oh, that was okay, and then try and finish it, or it might kind of completely change, but at least you've got the beginnings of an idea to kind of start from.
Yeah.
So I think it was like something like that. Like I wrote them both those tunes for my parents' birthdays, and then that was good titles, and then they kind of worked all right together. And then we thought, because the Granny Betty's one worked nicely, it would be nice to do another kind of similar thing with the piano. Because that's something, as you say, it's not particularly done that often, because there's a whole host of like tuning issues and a whole host of like scaredness.
Totally.
Like there is like pipe albums with piano on them, obviously, but it's more like not. Can't think of many other tracks that are like just like that hardcore, just like two instruments.
I think that's part of why it stands out so much. Yeah, it's a unique thing, and done beautifully. Like those, like I say, my favorite track. Right? Well, tracks really, I like both of those a lot. So pretty.
Yeah.
And speaking of the tuning thing, like maybe it's too much to go into too much about, but like what is going on with this equal temperament versus just intonation thing? Like, what even is this black magic that I'll never understand?
Yeah, well, I think basically just intonation is when there's a drone involved. Because if you have your drones and you tune your high G to equal temperament, it sounds mental sharp. Whereas because something to do with like the harmonic within the harmonic range of like high G is not just high G, and the drones are not just B flat, or well, it depends on what language we're going to talk about it as A.
Yeah.
But so like if the drones are A, and if you play a piano, that's equal temperament because there's no drone, if you like.
Sure.
Whereas when you've got the drones, it's like how it kind of blends into the drone harmonic. So if you actually get like a harmonic kind of printout of like drones, there is like G's up high in the drones, but they're
overtones
flatter
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The overtone G is actually flatter than like equal temperament G.
So then when you play the G, that makes it
if you, it sounds super crunchy if you tune the G to equal temperament and still had the drone going. Well, because there's that kind of whole thing. Like if you're playing with other instruments, like and you maybe do have it. Like I do set my high G sharper than I would if I was playing solos or in the band. Same with high A and C and D and F maybe as well. But like on the pipes, but you can't, if you're playing with an instrument, you can't tell. It's just when it becomes exposed, it starts to sound like, well, that D is actually quite sharp if you just play on your own. So you maybe have to kind of bring it down just because when it's against the drones.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Well. Yeah, it's just trying to kind of control it. But the equipment that's available to us now is such that it's quite easy to get your pipe sounding good in B flat.
Yeah.
Within reason, and then like the chanters are good now, whereas maybe like even like 10 years ago they didn't used to be,
right.
as consistent anyway. And it's the same with like any pitch. It's easy to get your pipe band to sound good now because the chanters are all good, regardless of the level. Like you could, generally speaking, plug in and play. Obviously, there's varying degrees of success with that. But if you've got a pipe band and you just chuck in 10 chanters that have all come from the same factory, and you put 10 reeds that have all come in the same factory, within reason, it's going to sound all right. Whereas maybe like 20 years ago, that would not be the case because all the chanters would be handmade and they'd be different. And the reeds are all obviously handmade anyway, but they would all be different as well.
Yeah.
So there's so many variables, whereas now you can make it sound okay straight from nothing, which is the same with the B flat thing.
Absolutely.
And once you start getting like kind of working in that area of B flat, it becomes a wee bit. It becomes easy to get your pipes going, and you start to think about that a bit more, and you know how you're going to tune your pipes differently for that versus how you tune them to be in a pipe band or in solos or.
How many of those like sort of like musical languages have you ended up having to speak over your career so far?
I played the trombone at school. So like I had like a kind of knowledge that's the bass. You read bass clef for that, so that means that I'm like kind of fluent in bass and treble clef if you like. And then you're talking like B flat, and then if you just learn the scale in B flat language, it becomes easy to speak to people about it. Because you just do the conversion in your head. So like I know that when I'm talking about D, I know that that's E flat, and it's like I know when I'm talking about high G, it's A flat. Things like that.
My eyes just went crossed a little bit trying to follow you, but yeah.
So that I know that low A is B flat.
Yeah.
So you just like as soon as if I'm speaking to someone about like, I'll make sure that we like let's both play the B flat at the same time. Like you can talk like that straight away, and it's just from doing it.
Yeah.
If you start to speak like that instead of being like, oh, make sure your A, because if you say make sure your A is the same, the note that they're thinking you're talking about is completely different to the note that you're playing.
Yeah.
As well as a piper.
But so then of course you also know piper language, like you just did it for us a couple of minutes ago, where like if you're talking to pipers, you know that we just need you to talk in A, right?
Yeah, of course, and that makes it easy because pipers are stupid.
That's
as
right.
well. Like, and I mean that in the nicest way possible, and I do include myself in that. So if anyone's listening and thinking that I'm being mean to other pipers and I'm looking down on them, I'm not. I include myself in the being stupid camp.
Yeah, no, look, Ross, I think that even if some people I think have said it out loud, and even if we haven't said it out loud, I think all of us recognize and accept that you're like the world's nicest piper. Here's an example of why, like one example of how. So when I first emailed you asking you to come on the show, I copied and pasted part of a paragraph that I had just earlier that day put into a similar email that I sent to Catherine Tickle, the Northumbrian piper. And so in the email that I sent to you, I missed her name. Yeah,
it says Catherine. Yeah.
So I said something like, in this case, hopefully I can like help get a few album sales for Catherine or something like that. So, and you didn't even mention it. You're still just like, yeah, I'll come on the show. You bet. So either you're just really nice, or you're also a big Catherine Tickle fan, and we're going to try to sell some of her albums today.
Yeah, maybe. No, it's just more. I think I've learned over the time because, well, it's nice to be nice, and I appreciate when people are nice to me, and I do try to be nice, and if I can.
Hey, and kind of along those lines too, Ross, you also have been, I've heard it noted by multiple people that you look happy when you play bagpipes. So
and no one else does.
And no one else does. Well, that's the thing. Even myself, we become very statuesque often when we're playing pipes, you know. And the thing is, like, now taking note of this, like, even on your website has this like excellent like collage of like images and YouTube videos and stuff like that. And there's like a corner of it where it's just like this great collection of you not actually doing the big smile face, but like the crazy eyebrows face, you know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
How much of this comes very naturally to you, or did you used to be a stoic, statuesque piper, and because of being on camera and stuff, you started going, you know what, I need to move around a little more. I need to, you know, like show emotion. Like, does that come out naturally, or was that a conscious effort on your part?
I think I don't know if it's a conscious effort. It's maybe more just trying to be a bit more relaxed. Like, I certainly like was, you know, obviously I grew up in a pipe band situation where it's like stand still and, you know, make sure that you're standing up straight and all this kind of stuff. And then, you know, the more I started to perform on stage, and like, you know, it was actually probably more through like being on the course at the Conservatoire in Glasgow and playing with other people and like having that ability to just like play border pipes and like play along with people. And with the border pipes, you don't have anything in your mouth. So like you can't just like sit and look miserable. Well, I don't think you can. So like, and then it ends up, then you start to speak to people and think, you know, you'd be able to speak, to tell people what tune you're going into next, or ask them what tune they're going into next, or things like that. So like once I kind of started to do that, it just kind of became like part of it, and then people start to enjoy it. So I guess you kind of adopt it into your performance of like, you know, actually I remember in my third year, maybe it was my third year or my fourth year recital at the RCS, one of the examiners was like, I felt that your movement was put on and you've been like and like you've been practicing it in the mirror, and I don't think it adds to the presentation and all this.
Oh my!
And I was like, oh yeah, because I stood in front of a mirror and like played my whole recital and was like, oh, I'll pop my right hip at this point and I'll, you know, like I'll lift my left eyebrow on this beat, and like it's like I clearly
popping
didn't do
the hip is what's gonna win it for you anyway, right?
Yeah, but it's like, you know, and I do that, and like I do. It depends. But you know, you start to get a thing, and it's nice when people recognize that you've got a thing that you do, as well. And then like, you know, laterally, I'm playing full time with the Chilli Pipers now. Like that is literally the whole gig is being larger than life and trying to be as engaging as possible.
Right.
So like I basically kind of do that as a job, and it just kind of comes naturally as how I play. But I try to stand still in the pipe band, and I can if I need to. I would be serious. But I also don't feel like I play as well. But maybe it's just a kind of psychological thing now of like, I feel like I need to try and feel it a bit to play better, especially the solos.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to get inside your head a little bit about that. Now, I don't know if this is necessarily applicable to like it being emotive and stuff like that, because I don't know what it means. But track 9 on the album is called Accidental Belterism. I wanted to figure out what the heck Belterism was, right? And so whenever I do want to figure out what it is, like what a word means, my favorite resource is Urban Dictionary. You ever get on Urban Dictionary?
Yeah.
So it's in there.
Is it?
Yeah. And here's what it says. Tell me if this matches what you were thinking. Or definition number 1, at least, is that a belter is something that's really excellent or very good or very cool. It's like, whoa, that's a real belter. Like, what a belter. So, right, so like Belterism would be like awesomeness, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, okay.
What do you think? How would you have defined Belterism, and how does it happen accidentally as well?
Yeah, so well that came from, I think that it was like an accidental phrase, accidental Belterism, but I think like Belterism, I guess in Glasgow, certainly in the kind of I guess the Glasgow Urban Dictionary, if you like, a belter would more like, yes, that is the meaning of belter as I know it as well. God, that tune's a pure belter. Yeah. But the way we talk about it is like someone who's like maybe, I don't know, a bit annoying or like not so good. You know, like
sure.
that guy's a pure belter. Like,
gotcha,
you know, like he's like maybe like that person's annoying to be around, or they think they know about stuff and they don't, or it's like things like that. Maybe would be like my definition of a belter, and probably like all my kind of friends' definition of a belter. So I think the whole belterism thing and the accidental belter that came from like doing something silly and then being like, oh, that was a bit of accidental belterism there.
Gotcha.
So see, like that's where that like phrase came from.
I wondered too if the accidental part was like cross fingering or something like that. Like, oh, your accidentals are real belters kind of thing. So
well, maybe we can go with that if you like, but no, it definitely came from. Oops, that was a bit of accidental belterism there. And then someone was like, that would be a great name for a tune.
And it's a great tune too. Love that tune.
I had it as, we called I did an EP with Charlie who plays fiddle on the Roke. Just like as like a duo, just the two of us, and that EP was called Accidental Belterism as well. And we played that tune on it as well.
But by the way, Ross, have you ever looked up the definition of Ross on Urban Dictionary?
No.
Well,
do I want to?
Do you want to know what it says? I'll tell you if you want to know.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
All right, here. This is definition number 1 for what a Ross is. Okay, Ross is the type of guy who will fall in love with his best friend's sister. He's not really a simp type of guy, though. Ross will always have a close friend who is a simp, but Ross doesn't judge, so it's all okay. Ross doesn't really get in much trouble, and Ross makes bank. Ross also is hella thick. He's got a booty that will be much appreciated in the near future. So find yourself a hella thick Ross.
There we go. That sounds about perfect, doesn't it?
That's a good definition.
That's definitely better than the key ring I've got from Scotland. And I think it says, and I think I can remember this off the top of my head, it's like Ross. From the Scottish word from headland, he is solid and reliable, a maker of dreams that can come true. It's like something about like, I can't remember, and then it's like at the end it's like he is good to be with. But like I definitely prefer the Urban Dictionary one. I might get a new keyring to go.
There you go.
To go alongside the mythical Scottish one.
Maybe the mythical Scottish version of thick is did it say reliable or solid? Maybe that's the way they used to say it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, perhaps.
And actually, speaking of thickness, let's talk face follicles. I put out word to some of my Patreon supporters and some people on my Facebook group and stuff. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be talking to Ross Miller. I'm really excited. Anybody have anything to ask him about? And a few people did send him messages, but more than one of them was, how does he get his beard to look that way? So if this interview becomes like 90% beard talk and only like 10% bagpipe talk, maybe that's okay.
That's it. Yeah, that's fine.
I can't believe you haven't won one of the Rab Awards for your beard yet. Have you
even? It's not long. It's not long enough. It's I've never been nominated for it.
I feel like we ought to also be going for like quality. I feel like quality.
I've got nothing on Gus Sickard or Andrew Fusco. I guess they've got all the length, but I've just got a bit of like mine's is just thick and kind of well maintained. Perhaps I try to. I try to take care in the way that it looks. I try not to let it get shaggy and horrible. But
it's a top-notch quality beard. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I go to a guy in Denniston and he sculpts it for me maybe once every 3 weeks or 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
You know, just not long ago at all, I was at a local Scottish festival, and Aaron Shaw of the Wicked Tinkers was there. And we were talking tunes, and he likes to dig into like the history of tune names and stuff. And we're talking about the Black Bear, a band had played it out of the circle. And he said that he was trying to figure out a while ago where that tune name came from because he didn't understand that there had been many bears in Scotland for a very long time. And he said that he'd read that maybe it used to actually be called the Black Beer. But now I'm wondering if we could just retitle it the Black Beard.
The Black Beard, yeah, this is like a good plan, yeah.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of naming stuff after you, Ross, I've got a question I want to ask you. So I've got this harebrained scheme. My intention is to make a limited run of bagpipe-themed hot sauces. So like I haven't talked to Big Rab about this yet, but I want to make one called Big Rabanero, and it'll be a habanero based hot sauce. And I've been chatting with some of my friends about the other Ross. Well, one of the other Rosses, right? Ross Ainsley. How we could do maybe like make a Ross Painsley, right? Because it's so hot, you know.
Yeah.
So
no, that sounds good.
Hypothetically, if I was going to make a hot sauce based on you, we need some hot sauce names. I was thinking we could play with the Roke and call it the Choke. Maybe it's so hot it chokes.
Yeah.
What if we went with Sauce Miller instead of Ross Miller? Yeah. I did think maybe we could play with Spanish too, where like you do crush up the peppers to make the hot sauce. Maybe we could call it El Molinero instead of the Miller. El Molinero.
Yeah.
What about this one? Speaking of Belterism, though, accidental swelterism.
That's great. I think that's maybe my favorite so far.
Is that your favorite so far?
Yeah, accidental swelterism.
Let that percolate in your mind, and if you come up with others in future, let me know, and we'll make this happen. We'll make this happen. I'll get you a bottle for free, a bottle of your own personalized hot sauce. Huh?
Sounds good.
I want to hit another track if you don't mind.
Of course.
I also track 6 on there, Quartet, is like disorienting to me in the best possible way. Like I thought it's so cool, but like I don't understand what's going on. Is this being played in like an existing idiom that I just don't understand, or was this like totally, like, is it totally unique?
No, I don't. I guess it's I don't know if it's unique, but it's not like in a meter.
Right.
If you like, it's not in like 4/4 or 6/8 or any of these, or even like the kind of more common Bulgarian ones like 7 or 10 or 11. It's basically like. It's like a phrase of like 4/4, and then with like a 1/8 bar, just like a quaver.
Right.
So it goes like dee dum dum dee dum dum diddle dum dee dum dum dee dum 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 bum dee dum.
Yeah,
almost
that's the one.
Like so it kind of catches you. That was actually funny when I'm trying to write it. Trying to write it down, I guess, and even just for me to like play it, but also then further than that to then put it in the book. And trying to like quantify it into something.
Yeah, how do you write this down that other people will understand it?
So it was just like made it like the phrase of 4/4 and then the 1/8 bar and then 4/4 then 1/8. But I guess the helpful thing with the book is like the CD was already there, or the album was already there, so like you could listen and go, oh, I get how that works. And then the last phrase is just in 5. It's just 5 beats, like dee dum dum dee dum dee dum da dee dum da dee dee dum. So it's just 1 dum dum be dum dum dee dum da 5 1 da da dee dum. So it's just like, and then it's just a jig after that, and the whole world feels normal again.
Yeah, I wonder if that's part of why I like it so much, is that like because it's not in something that I'm used to, that I can click, like there's so much unpredictability there, especially the first time listening to it. It's like a practice in like Buddhist wisdom. Like I must let go. If I try to hold on, I'm going to be confused. All I can do is let go and let this song sweep me away.
Yeah, that's it. Well, yeah, it's also weird if it's out of context. Like if you listen to the album in kind of order, it kind of makes a bit of sense in terms of like it's the one where I'm on my own, but there's 4 of me. I guess, but it's just like it kind of makes a bit of sense in the context. But see, if it comes on shuffle, it's totally insane.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, very confusing. Now, in recording this album, did you kind of going into it already have enough experience with like microphones and how to capture the sound of bagpipes and stuff that you knew just what to do, or was there a lot of learning to be done to figure out how to capture? Because the what do you call it? The production quality is really great. Like this sounds so good on any kind of speakers or headphones.
Yeah, I think, well, maybe a bit of both. Like, I'd spent a lot of time in studios just when we were at uni. We were very lucky there's a studio at uni where you could just hire it for free and just record whatever you like. And then also, like, we used quite a lot of, like, so it was Gus Stirrett who recorded the album in his studio in Glasgow and near Charing Cross at the Mitchell Library, like, is where his studio is, near the Mitchell Library. But he's also recorded bagpipe things before and knows a lot of pipers, and we also use quite a few reference tracks. Like I was like, I want the pipes to sound like I think the Scott Wood Band album, his pipes sound amazing. So I was like, well, I want them to sound like that. Like, but obviously they don't because I'm not playing his pipes. But like the way that the actual pipes are captured. So yeah, and we actually used different techniques as well throughout. So if it was a big band set, and there was drums and things, I played just chanter, and then added drones later. But whereas if it was an exposed thing where it was like just me and maybe like me and the piano or me and my own, or even there was maybe the kind of 4-piece band, like the 4-piece ones where it's like guitar, fiddle, and baran with maybe a bit of bass. Like those ones, I played the full pipes because I felt like you can hear when you're not playing the full pipes, and as you said in the high A, like when you've not got the drones there to like add a harmonic or like add a bit of vibration, you can really hear when the pipes are not like when they are like kind of artificial, if you like, when you're not playing the full thing. Yeah. Whereas in a big band set, you can't hear that because there's so much going on, but also it's good because it means you've got more control over the tuning and like even the timing. You can move it, whereas you can hear the drones shift. Yeah, if you start to edit with drones on,
they phase, don't they?
Yeah. So I would record I could record in as many sections as I liked with just the chanter. Yeah. And then I would just do a whole run just playing drones.
Did you find that was hard, like to hold the drone steady without a chanter going?
No, that's totally fine. You just put the cork in and just stand, like strike it up, stand for the whole thing, and then just stop at the end. Yeah. Like that's something. Yeah. Well, like because we play Kane and the Inveraray band, like you have to get going. I guess you blow just drones for ages. So like I'm used to just blowing drones.
So you had training.
Yeah, by accident. But like I don't think I think it's not something that I personally particularly find hard. Like, yes, I get that it is probably difficult for beginners or whatever, but because I always do that with, even if I'm teaching, I go chanter first anyway. I know lots of people, but particularly, I guess I don't want to be, but particularly in America where I've seen it, is they go like learn the tunes on the practice chanter, pipes, but they go drones instead of chanter, which to me doesn't make much sense. I can see the thinking of like trying to get the drone steady and all that, but you've just spent all this time being able to play a tune on the chanter. So why would you not then just like go onto the pipes and try and play that tune on a chanter on the pipes and then add the drones? Like that to me is a more kind of fulfilling path. Like it's maybe also why people would drop out if they're like, oh, I'm on the pipes, but I'm not actually making any noise with my fingers.
Well, most of us who play bagpipes are just gluttons for punishment, and so we're going to take the hardest possible path.
Well sure, but I'm a big believer in it doesn't have to be hard, and also like because when I was doing lots of teaching, I've recently stopped doing teaching, but when I do teaching, it's like I'm trying to make it as enjoyable as possible for people and as easy as possible. Yeah. And I know that might go against some of the kind of more traditional methods in terms of like, well, you've just got to blow harder, or like
totally
that kind of idea. It just doesn't work, especially in this day and age when like young people. My experience generally tends to be young people who I've been teaching. Certainly when I was in schools and things. And if you're teaching a young person and all of a sudden becomes a little bit hard, they're just going to quit and go and play video games. So like you're as well to make it as easy as possible for them. And then, like obviously, you're trying to get them to go through challenges to make them better people. But I think there's definitely a level. Whereas, like I've seen it in my time growing up and all that kind of thing, people just like not getting it. No one really just blow harder, like not making it easier for them, or like you've got to play all 3 drones or you're rubbish or all this stuff. It's like no, just let them play, and then all of a sudden they'll like it more, and then they'll go away practice more, and then all of a sudden they'll be better. Your band will be better. Your your own playing will be better. It starts to be a domino effect rather than being able to play a tune on the chanter, which I guess is relatively easy, and then it's like, oh, here's drones, try and keep them steady for the next 6 months, and then but what about the tune I just spent the last year just learning?
Yeah, forget it while you're doing drones.
Sure, right? Exactly, and then you try and play a tune and it's a disaster. Whereas if you go the other way, then it kind of keeps your tunes going. Maybe I don't know. I'm not saying that's the best way, but it's.
Yeah, I'm gonna set you up a head-to-head clash fight with Andrew Douglas. You two can duke it out. Fight about which to do first.
Because I think, I would imagine he doesn't go for drones first. He talks about rhythm. I know he does that. He talks about trying to get the rhythm before even playing the tune, and I quite like that idea.
Yeah.
But I think that it's maybe better when you've got adults who are maybe more willing to, like, because he generally speaking teaches adults, and I generally speaking teach kids. But I think when you've got adults, you like have like you have there's a bit more kind of forgiveness there because they're more willing to come up against challenges and try and overcome them, perhaps.
Oh, that makes sense.
And they're also there out of choice.
Right, totally.
90% of the time, they're there because they're like, I want to learn this instrument, so they're going to do everything you tell them to do in order to learn that instrument. Whereas if it's a kid and you've gone into a classroom, and be like, who wants to learn the bagpipes? And 10 of them say yes, then it's up to you to then make them want to play the bagpipes, as opposed to they're not coming wanting to play.
There's surely also kids who show up for lessons because their parents sent them and never, they're whether or not they want to isn't even a question. So then it's like, well, can we inspire them such that they'll enjoy it while they're here at least,
No, sure. There is that side of it too. But certainly my own experience in the kind of public school thing, you maybe experience that more in the private school where they're paying for the lessons. It's like, oh, it'll be good for you to play the bagpipes, son. That kind of thing. Whereas like if you're in the the public school, which is kind of where I did most of my work, certainly more laterally, it's like you go in and you're like, right, we've got 8 chanters. Who wants to play chanter?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they do. Yes, obviously they're volunteering because they've heard you play Scotland the Brave and they think it's cool, but they don't appreciate the steps to get there. But no, I certainly think trying to discourage people. Like, well, I feel it's fairly discouraging to just go straight to drones. I know that was a bit of a tangent there, but
no, it makes sense.
It's important if people are listening who are maybe not as experienced or looking for tips and things. I certainly think that's the best. Turn off the drones and just try and play your tunes on the chanter. Get good at that first, and then put the drones on and worry about that after.
Yeah, totally.
Perhaps that would be my advice if I had to give it.
No, I dig it.
But I can see the other side of it because you want it to be steady and all this stuff as well.
And maybe some of each, right? A little from one and a little from the other. I have heard people talk before about like a hierarchy of motivations and how like at the bottom of that hierarchy is something like fear. If you're doing something because you're afraid, like I guess you do it, but that's maybe not a great reason for doing something. So if you've got like parents or a pipe major yelling at you, telling you have to, then you'll go, play your pipes if you must. And then above that would be something like duty, right? So like if you feel maybe guilted into playing pipes or like, oh, I really have to do this, maybe that's better than doing it out of fear, but it's still not ideal. But then at the top of the hierarchy would be something like love or joy. And so if you can get to where you're doing it because you love it, well, that's sustainable. You'll do that forever.
Yeah. That's I completely agree with that. Mm-hmm. That sounds exactly right.
I wanted to ask you about track 8 on the album as well. I Write. this is one that it's just, I love how different it is, the way that it sounds on the Roke compared to the way it sounds when you recorded it on Accidental Belterism. Like both are both are so good, but they're so different from each other. And so I'm curious, like, was the way that you did it on the Roke kind of like your eventual vision that you wanted it to get that way eventually, and like Accidental Belterism was like a stop on the way? Or do they both, like, which, do you play both of them, both styles in live shows? Or like, you know, are they each of equal value to you, or do you, is there one true way to play that? That too, you know, like, no, do you love one better than the other?
Yeah, I think if I'm honest, the Accidental Belterism was like a stop on the way to getting it to how it sounds on the Roke. Mm-hmm. There's, I guess, a lot of variables in terms of like, there's just three of us on the, because Luke's playing guitar on that and on the Accidental Belterism EP, and there's the three of us. We're a bit less experienced, we're younger, we like, you know, we're less experienced recording, and I'm playing border pipes as well, so there's not that kind of, as I was saying about like the kind of the drive thing of the Highland pipes, and then you know, and we only had like, you know, three instruments to play with, whereas as soon as you add a drum kit and a bass, it immediately becomes pop music as well. So it's like you're trying to make it as poppy as possible, that kind of like feeling, or you know, you can feel it a bit more kind of drivey, poppy kind of thing as well. And then we put that extra, the couple of tunes, like that tune as well. And that kind of that arrangement kind of came from when I was in the Young Trad final. There's a video of it on YouTube. People always talk about that and say they like it because I'm doing the eyebrows and all that.
Yep. I know the video. I also like it.
But it kind of maybe came from that as well. Like that was the kind of vision, and I was like, okay, let's go and record that with proper drum kit and like with people who like I play with all the time. So like it kind of came from that. So that's how it gets. But the whole original idea came from like the pipe band medley thing of like playing, you know, Inveraray do it, and I did it in Boghall when I was there. Like SFU do it. It's like you play the slow air over the top of the last tune, and it's like it's a total like it's a total thing now, and it's great. And I think when it's done well, it's really effective, and I think it's a good tool. So like that's maybe a homage to that as well. The fact that I have that, but it's like let's do it in a kind of trad environment with other instruments. So yeah, you've got the kind of dum 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 dum, like the kind of hard pipey fast bit that Charlie was doing as well on the fiddle. So that it just added layers, and because we were doing it as an album, it's like you can add as many layers as you like. There's electric guitar in there. It's like the whole thing is just like you should see the file. It just goes absolutely massive at that point, and then back to normal. So it's like, it's about like, I think that was the kind of the end path, and it's just because it's a set of tunes that I felt that I played well personally, and like we as a group we felt like it was good, so it was good to record it in that kind of context, as well. Like, I feel like the Accidental Belterism was how it was at that time, because there's probably 3 years between the two things. Yeah, it would have been 3 years between the two things. So like a lot could change in 3 years. You mature a fair bit. Like we graduated and had been out in the world for a couple of years by the time the Roke came round.
I mean, especially 3 years in your early 20s. Those are big years for sure. Yeah,
no, for sure. So it's like, and then so it's like how things sound, and your actual outlook on how it's supposed to sound or how you want it to sound completely changes as well. And like, you know, the quality of recording, the quality of musicians, everyone just gets better.
Yeah.
So like it just is not. I don't think the Accidental Belterism version is bad. It's just
I like it too. For sure.
It just evolved into this kind of the full orchestral thing.
It is so big and so cool.
It became. Yeah.
And it also has. I feel like it's a really great example of like mode changes. You know, like minor to major, major to minor, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that did come in from one of my friends. John Charles mentioned this, and he did want to make very clear, like, he's a big fan. He means this in like only a very positive way. That the other day he was playing a set of tunes, and he did something like that. Like, either, I don't know if he switched from one tune to the other, where the one was major and the other was minor, or if it was that he did a major version of a tune and then switched to playing it as a minor in a minor key instead.
Right? Yeah.
But in either case, he said that as he did that, this little thing in his brain went, "Oh, I sound like Russ Miller." Like, what a Russ Miller thing for me to do, and said as a fan, right? He only thought that because he listens to your music so much, right? But do you feel like that kind of a shift in a set is something that really appeals to you personally, that such that it comes out in your music often enough that we would think to ourselves, "Oh, that's a Russ Millerism."
Well, that's really nice to hear. But I think that comes from I heard that, like, or maybe it was the first time I ever went to the Ben Nevis session. I can remember. I'm like, I could play pipes, I could play border pipes. I'd done it at school. But I turned 18 and moved to Glasgow. I was playing the tunes. I remember playing like a set of tunes, maybe just kind of treating it like a pipe band medley. Someone said like jigs, and I played like the Seagull, Kerry Gill Support Along, and I don't know, Spectre John or Camel Vanessa or something like that. 3 tunes, all in A, all twice through, because someone had told me that you always play the tunes twice through if you're doing these kind of things, which you wouldn't ever do in a piping context, really. Unless it's like the Glenfiddich MSR. But like, for jigs and whatever, you would only play them once and then you move to the next one. And I played them all, they're all in the same key. And then I remember the guitarist, who's actually the guitarist on that Accidental Belterisms.
Oh, look at that.
I Write track that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So look, he was just like, oh, you could just like, you should like probably try and change key with every tune that you play. And that makes it way more effective. So like basically ever since that day, every time I play a set, if I lead a set or I do a set, and it's for the same for the Caleys, like we do when we play Caleys and things, it's like you make a really conscious effort to never play 2 tunes in a row that are in the same key.
Yeah, interesting.
So it's just something that I've just like done, and I brought that into my piping. Like I would try to do that. Maybe you can't really avoid it in like an MSR situation and for solos because someone else is picking the tunes, so they're picking the keys.
Yeah.
And you don't want to play like 4 different tunes in 4 different keys because you can still all pick the same keys, if that makes sense.
Right.
Because like, a judge doesn't think of that. They just go, oh, I like that tune, I like that tune, I like that tune. They don't go, oh, that's a good key change between the Suspect and the real. But like, whereas like, you think of that, and then you see that happening now more and more in pipe band medleys. I think successful pipe band medleys, there's key changes every tune because it keeps the interest up.
It might be my own ignorance speaking here, Ross, but I have definitely felt like when I was like a teenager playing pipe band competitions, it seemed almost like the intention when setting up a set was to keep them in the same key and mode throughout, like that added to the cohesiveness. But then more recently, it feels more like, no, the intention is to, like you say, keep the interest up. So you need some variety. So change keys is actually the ideal.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think certainly it's more, but that's because there's more people who have got more knowledge about music that are playing pipe band. Like, I'm not for one second downplaying pipe band musicians or people like who played the pipes for the last 150 years, 200 years. I'm not but like certainly in the last, say, 20 years, certainly since I've been involved in it, even you listen to the Worlds in 2003 and the Worlds in 2023 or whatever, you would really notice the quality of musicianship, because there's people in all of these top bands now, and probably in lower grade bands, that just know more about stuff.
For sure, yeah, absolutely.
It's just
like, a great way to put it. Yeah,
so it's like you've got people in there who are writing these like brilliant harmony arrangements and the order of the tunes. It's like there's key changes happening, there's like style changes happening, there's all this, like we even talk about it in Strathspey and Inveraray, like one will be like kind of floaty and then the next one will be driving. It's in the new medley this year. One's like da 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 da, and then you've got dum da ba dum ba da da. The drive changes, and that's an effect because you're changing the key, you're changing the kind of impactfulness of the tune, and it's like that like somebody has thought of that, but it also maybe comes from over a natural place now because it's just something that you do now. Yeah. So like that is like, to me, like I would hope, well, maybe maybe like you've always got to change something. I think when you're doing a set, that's something that I would say, and I would give that advice to anybody. If you're trying to put a set of tunes together, you're either changing the key or the time signature with every tune that you play in a row, unless it's Scotland the Brave and the Roundtree, because somehow that seems to work.
Yeah.
But there's also something in there. I was talking about this with a student the other day. It's like Scotland the Brave is like super busy and super hard, and then the Roundtree is like super open and way easier.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like you know that even that kind of changes feel. So that's why that's a successful pairing of tunes.
That's
like,
interesting.
You know, anything you play, if this goes out to all pipers, anything you play, try and play try and change the key or change the thing. And if you don't know, basically, if you're playing a tune that's got lots of A's, C's, and E's in it, follow that with a tune that's got lots of D's, F's, and high A's in it. Like, as simple as that, if you don't know about the key. And then if it's got lots of B's and it sounds sad in it, then that's good to go in between the two.
This is really well boiled down practical advice. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
That's really well put.
I think that's like in its very simplest form. That's what you're kind of always thinking.
Yeah.
Like certainly that's what I'm like. You know, and that'll generally be successful. Obviously, there'll be times where that basic thing doesn't work. You know, it's the same as like that spelling thing you get told when you're like in primary school, and it's like I before E except after C. And it's like,
there's always an exception.
Actually, except to all of these exceptions.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of that, but I think as a general rule, if you're going to play a tune, you're talking about that mum and dad set, like those tunes are both in the same key, but one tune's in simple time and one tune's in compound time. So like, something has changed.
Yeah.
As well, and you've got the added bonus that someone's playing with you, so they can do something different too.
Right.
But I feel like you're talking about like the Roke that I Write track goes like a 3/4 march in B minor, but then it goes to the major first reel, and then it goes to the minor. But then even within the tune, there's two parts that are minor, and the third part becomes major again, and then it goes back to minor. So it's like you're something is changing all the time because it's the TikTok culture, isn't it? We're only engaged in things for 10 seconds.
5, 6 seconds, yeah.
Yeah, I find that myself. I get so bad for that now. It's like I can't watch like YouTube videos, kind of long form things at all.
You give up on them, right?
Like films, because you're just like, this is not getting to the point quick enough.
We all need to play more Pembroke to help us slow down, right?
Sure, yeah. It's like, oh, is this done yet?
So then Ross, like John Charles continues here. He says, would Ross be happy with the idea that a key change might be called in future the Ross Miller move?
I'm not for 1 second suggesting that I've invented key changes.
Recognizing that, of course, again, you're a very nice and down to earth person, right? But what if this happens, right? What if 100 years from now nobody knows why, but it's just called a Ross Miller when you change keys? Would you be down with that?
That would be lovely. It's that whole thing of like, what are people going to remember you for when you die? What's your legacy?
Your beard, probably, right?
If it was my beard, and it's telling people that I've got to play that if I've like I don't know, encourage people to not just play 4/4 marches in the key of A.
Yeah.
Then that's then I've succeeded.
You'll feel good about that legacy, huh?
Yeah. No, for sure. That's definitely a thing.
So your first name is Ross.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy everything I've been able to find on YouTube of you playing with a guitarist whose last name is Ross, Caitlin Ross.
Oh yeah.
You two play together great. Is there any potential for a future album from the two of you? Because I love hearing you play.
Oh, I don't know if that would cause too many arguments. Since my girlfriend is Caitlin, so I don't know if that would fall out beyond repair if we had to go into a studio and.
Yeah, you wouldn't want that. So how about this? If the relationship doesn't work out, then make an album. How about that?
Maybe that, and there'll be an album of rage.
There you go. Hey, music's all about tension and release. So if there's a lot of tension, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, no, for sure. Well, Caitlin's in her she's a musician in her own right. She's in a band called Aval, and they've got piper and things, and she sings Gaelic and that.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's a great guitarist as well, and she like we play. But those videos came out of a like lockdown thing of like we've neither of us have done a gig with like the people that we normally play with in so long, so let's just like sit down and play. And then I was like, shall we record a video? And then I don't know if you've been on my Facebook, but we did like a bloopers reel, and you could kind of see the the making of. It's not all shiny and as much as you think.
Ross,
it took us a week to record that. Like what Ale is Dear and Alex E. McGregor set.
Yeah.
It was good. So it was so bad.
But that is exactly a big part of what I love about what you do. When you did that interview with the Chanarant guys, that was the first time I've ever heard any bagpiper talk openly and without any sort of like embarrassment or trying to hide it about how like sometimes in a studio album it actually works best to record the chanter and drones separately. And maybe others have talked about it and I just never heard it, right? But it's like this willingness to show the process, And part it's like it doesn't take away from your finished product in any way. Like you're still one of my very favorite recording pipers to listen to. In fact, it enhances it, and in a way, it is like way more encouraging for us normal people. Because if all we ever get to see or hear from our heroes is the shining final product, we assume that they're doing that immediately. Like without building up to it in any way. And hey, maybe there's some prodigies who are doing it immediately. But to know that there's like this human side, it's not like that makes me think, oh, good, then I can play like Ross Miller someday. But it does make me not feel bad about when my stuff isn't shiny. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. To get to the shine. That's why I think you'll find if you listen to people, like anybody of any kind of level in the piping scene, they generally don't change their repertoire that often because you get so polished at stuff that it's difficult to get other stuff so polished. That it's easy just to play the same sets all the time because you're like people haven't heard it live. Like I think that's maybe a thing. Like you go to a Stuart Liddell recital or a Willie McCallum or an Angus McCall recital, and these guys will generally speaking they'll play the same 5 sets and then they'll maybe do like 3 other new sets. For instance, and it's because they get so polished at that it's like, well, why would I play anything else? Because I'm so polished at it.
Yeah.
And I've never asked them that, but like I assume that's where it comes from because I find that myself. Like I'm like, you talked about the I Write set. That's had so many iterations because I feel like I'm good at playing that tune.
Yeah.
Like why would I like try like I'll try and make that set better. It's not, it's maybe that's a thought.
Yeah.
Like like once you get good at it, like try and kind of maintain good at it and try and get everything else as good as it. Thing, perhaps as well. But no, for sure, it's definitely like that lot. Like anything that you're putting out content wise, and I'm sure if you speak to any kind of content, I'm not saying I'm a content creator, but like anytime I put out a video or anything like that does appear to be polished, there's definitely been lots of swearing, lots of things that haven't gone right in the lead up to that. You never get it right first time, or I certainly don't.
Your willingness to show that is very much appreciated.
Yeah, and I'm more than willing to show that because I know that everyone else is the same. Even if they tell, I guarantee that everyone else is the same.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of creating content, I hope that come the holidays this year, we'll get a lot more great videos that like what you put out before.
Well, hopefully, I do enjoy doing that, but I sometimes I feel a bit of pressure that. Yeah. But there is only so many Christmas carols, and there's and within that there's only so many Christmas carols that fit on the pipes.
Yeah.
Or songs, but now I've managed to get the kind of. I found a trick of getting the kind of backing track thing, so I don't need to spend so long making backing tracks. Like just using a karaoke backing track off YouTube, basically.
You know what? Okay,
and then being the singer. Sorry, am I giving away the trade secrets?
No, not on the contrary. I realized that like I've been keeping it for over an hour now, so like I'm trying to like decide what I can like cut from what I wanted to ask you about. But that's one of the things I thought, I won't bring this up. But since you bring it up. It came up in the Chanarant interview as well, and I've just been thinking about it ever since then. Dude, what about a karaoke album for the Roke so that us pipers could buy your book and learn some of the tunes in our own, as well as we could, and then just hit play on the album and play along with it? That would be so fun.
What, without the pipes in it?
Right. Just everything except the pipes.
Yeah. We kind of tried that with I did that karaoke competition or whatever I did.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I remember that. I watched like a half dozen of those entries. Yeah, those were cool.
Yeah. So it's like it's just that kind of thing. Do your own thing over the top of it. Mm-hmm. So, but I changed the key and stuff. But I guess it's more just about like trying to go dig up the stems because you'd have to remaster it because like
that's true. It'd be a lot of work
to mixing and mastering. You have to then like take out the pipes and remaster it so it like sounds good with. Out the pipes kind of thing and all that. So it's not just the same as I don't know how they do it for karaoke tracks, but I think it's some sometimes they often like there's like some kind of EQing thing you can do to take out the vocal, which I don't think is as easy to do when the vocal, if you like, is the bagpipes.
Right, is the bagpipes. Yeah, totally makes sense.
But yeah, no, sure, it's maybe an idea.
Well, if it ever happens, I feel like
there's not. I feel like the mileage coming out of that is not.
It might not be worth.
There's only so much mileage I'm going to get out of this Roke album now. It's 3 years old. It's maybe time to try and kind of focus on doing something new.
So let me just say, like, aside from Catherine Tickle's albums, of course, anybody who doesn't have the Roke yet, go get it. It's such a good album, freaking great.
Yeah, and there's a book as well, which is the boxes make a lovely, as much as they do make a lovely table.
Oh, for sure.
It's nice to get rid of parts of the table as you sell books and CDs.
The book, when you did mention like you had the album and so then putting the book together, this is something I was debating with my friend Jeremy and with John Charles the other day. It's like, and it's actually kind of like what you already mentioned, right? Like the magic of trad music being that like a tune can be different from piper to piper, right? When it comes to tune books, me personally, this is just the way I look at it. I do like the freedom to be able to play my version of a tune, and often, really, if I'm honest, that's because I usually can't play it as well as the person who I've been listening to. But my excuse is to say, oh, I'm doing it in my way, right?
Yeah, sure, of course.
But when I'm looking at a tune book, I really, really like to have what's written on the page match what's on the studio album, right? And then be able to work from that. Do you feel like you were going for like perfect parody, or was it kind of an approximation process?
Yeah, well, no. So the book is as far as I could push it at the time of making the book, exactly what I played on the album. And like I think we got as close as possible. Like, I sat and wrote it, and then my friend helped me. He proofread it and was like, "Oh, by the way, you played a G grace note there, not an E grace note."
So it got pretty meticulous.
It got pretty mental at one stage. But it got to the point where I was like, right, I think that's it.
We've done enough. Right?
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I think that that was certainly the idea. The idea was you could open at page 1 and stick on Spotify at 0 and get to the end, and you would have been able to play all the pipe parts exactly as I played it. And I even had to like work out how to write stuff that like that I'd basically like that has never really been written down before, like the kind of runs up to high G and stuff.
Oh right, yeah.
So that I was like having to like create grace notes for that kind of stuff and write out the cran things, the kind of whistly movements I was doing on low A and that accidental Belterism track,
right?
And things. It's like there's stuff that like I'm not saying I invented it, but I've never seen it written down. So it's like so it's like how do you write that? And like again talking about the quartet track, like how do we make this, or how do I make this as presentable as I possibly can?
Right, totally.
And as understandable as I possibly can. It's like to the lowest common denominator, I guess, is the idea. Where instead of just getting a tune book and going, right, this is the 30 tunes that I've written in my life. Here you go.
Right.
Like, this is how they go. It is like a kind of thing, and it tells you more. It's like extended sleeve notes as well. It tells you more than the sleeve notes in the album.
Mine's in shipping right now, so I'm looking forward to going
it's on its way.
Yeah.
But so like the album sleeve notes obviously only had like 12 pages or whatever, but each track has got like its own page of writing at the start of it, so it tells you about these stories about the tunes and things, and
man, I love that.
Where they come from and things.
Those are my favorite tune books, are exactly those ones where you can sit down for a session with it and spend about half your time reading as well as playing through some tunes. I love that so much.
It's good.
Hey friends, I hope that you're enjoying the interview with Ross Miller. I sure did enjoy talking to him, and if you haven't listened to the Roke yet, let me just highly and strongly and super duper as extremely as a person can recommend giving it a thorough listen. Best of all would be to purchase it, be that via Bandcamp or a physical CD or anything like that, just to get Ross some solid support for the great music that he's making. But if nothing else, stream it. I mean, do both. Go buy the album, stream it, and just leave it streaming overnight while you're asleep on mute, so that the pennies that rack up eventually from Spotify plays can get to them as well. Supporting musicians who make awesome music might have a direct effect on making them make more music. So it's good. support him. I just wanted to give you a quick reminder that the show can be found on social media platforms. It's at droning.on.podcast, all over the place, and you can write into the show using the email address, the droningonpodcast@gmail.com. All of this is in links in the show notes down below, as well as some links to Ross Miller's work. And I'm going to do a drawing here for the Patreon supporters of the show. If you want to help the show out with money, that's okay with me. You can use Patreon, or you can mail me a check, or send me chunks of gold bullion. Anything you want, I'll take it. I would even accept discarded bagpipe parts as patronage. So we're going to do a drawing here. We've got 15 individuals currently supporting the show, and I'm very grateful to each one of them. So I've got a 20-sided dice here. I'm going to drop through my Cthulhu dice tower and just see what the master of the depths, Cthulhu himself, decides here. The winner is going to get the Roke collection from Ross Miller, which is the tune book as well as a physical copy of the CD. And let me tell you, they are beautiful, just beautiful. I went ahead and bought one before talking to Ross, and even though it unfortunately hadn't arrived by the time I did talk to him, or I would have brought it up with him in the call, but it arrived shortly after, and I am just nothing but impressed. It's a beautiful set. So anyway, let's see here. Gonna drop the dice here and see where it falls. And anybody who supports the show in future, you just get added to this list for the drawings that we do. So here we go. That's a 2. Number 2. John Charles. Well, how convenient. He's one of our newest supporters, and so it's great when I don't want to make... Now, Camille Late, also known as Osbrod, she was the first ever supporter of the show, and I feel like she deserves to have always a place of honor as such. And so I don't want to make it sound like I'm celebrating that the newest supporter, wins the prize, when like the longest standing supporters obviously ought to win the prizes as well. Hopefully, given time, all this comes out equitably. But I always feel excited when a new supporter gets a prize, just because it's like, there you go, validation that you've made the right choice in supporting the show. So anyway, John Charles, I will have this headed. It'll be coming straight from Ross Miller himself, so it'll take a little while to get to you, but I'll get it started right away. And yeah, anybody else who wants to be part of those drawings in the future, and otherwise wants to just support the show because you're enjoying it, that's the one way to do it. And write in, and et cetera, et cetera. Enough of this blabbering. Get back to the show. Have a good weekend. Thanks again for tuning in. Now, I mentioned that I'm taking a lot of your time here. I can take us to the last track, and we can kind of finish with that, or I can ask you about 2 tracks. Do you have time for 2, or should we go straight to the last one?
I've got time for 2. No, I've got awesome. Nothing really on this evening. I've played my pipes already today, so that's all I had to do.
You're good then.
I'm good.
Then before we go to the last track, I do, like we mentioned before, like how it came up that music's all about tension and release. Yeah. Track 4, the 3 set.
Yeah.
Right around 3 minutes is where like an awesome release of tension happens. That set so much. Was that all original tunes for you? Was it a mix of originals and trads? I didn't know it. I didn't recognize any of them personally, so I wasn't sure. But maybe just tell me about that set. I love that set.
Yeah, so the first tune is called Chloe's Passion for Willie Macaulay, which was written by Dr. Angus MacDonald, so Alan MacDonald's brother. He wrote that, and apparently Dr. Angus was with Willie Macaulay. This is how the story goes, anyway. And they were in a bar somewhere, and there was a painting on the wall who couldn't take the painting couldn't take its eyes off Willie Macaulay. So, and I think the more they drank, the more they started to believe that the painting was looking at them. But the painting was called Chloe. It was all this person called Chloe. So it was Chloe's Passion for Willie Macaulay. I believe, and yeah, that's like an E minor slip jig. It's kind of one of the very few things. So it's got that kind of gritty. It's a slip jig, so it's in 9/8, which makes it again slightly unusual. It's got like that kind of 3 feel. That's why it's called the 3 set, because all the tunes have got 3 feel.
Oh, gotcha.
But it's like so there's always that kind of extra bit. So it's either too short or too long, if that makes sense, for what we're used to as 6/8. And then the middle tune is that Angus John McNeill of Barra, which lots of bands have recorded that, I think, like Dive and a band called Acid as well recorded that. That's just like a drive, and again, it's in that key, but it's really driving. It's in that feel, the 3 feel, but it's it's like it's got that kind of like head down, no nonsense driving thing.
Right.
And then the final tune was written by one of my lecturers at uni. He's not a piper, he's a flautist and a piano player called Hamish Napier, and he plays with Ross Ainsley and things. And he wrote this tune. It's called The Raft Race. But it's just got that great like it's got that kind of like I don't know, it's slightly unusual, the second part, and it doesn't feel particularly pipey either, so which is why it's cool to play it on the pipes.
Right.
But yeah, that ended up just kind of becoming like Gaelic pop music, I guess, if you like. Is that kind of like, yeah, it's just a bit of kind of like feel good party, again, 2 minor tunes with the release into the major reel. It like, you know, it really does kind of, yeah, I could, you know, it feels like a kind of bit of a party thing.
I love the
as well.
I don't get into numerology personally per se, but I just love that it's called the 3 set. There's the divisibles of 3 in the time signatures, and then, you know, there are 3 tunes, and it's around 3 minutes that release happens as well. Yeah. There's something going on, man.
The worst bit is it should have been track 3. I completely missed the boat there.
Man, there you go. It ended up track 4. It was so close.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was more to help with the flow, I think.
Yeah. No, maybe the album does flow nicely too, and that's another thing, Ross. That, like, you know, speaking of like, I don't know, modern pop culture and stuff like that, like we are very much like a track-based music listening culture these days. Where, I don't know, I'm old enough to remember when that wasn't as easy a thing to do. You know, if you hit shuffle, it was shuffle on an album that was in the machine. You know, and so you could only shuffle within that album anyway. So. I don't know. I still have a real strong love for an album that feels like it is not just a collection of tracks, but a thing unto itself. Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Hopefully that's the idea. I get that. Yeah, I think that was certainly what I kind of tried to go for. The kind of the group of us tried to go for, and as I say, it kind of tried to have a bit of a journey in terms of the music. Like, it wasn't just like all the big tracks at the start and then kind of all the wee tracks after. It's got, like, you know, starts and ends with big tracks. There's a couple of kind of, you know, a quarter and 3/4 of the way through, and then the other tracks kind of fill in the gaps. Yeah, as well.
Yeah, and in that track in particular too, there was like a little bit of I'm not sure if you call it compression or filtering. I think it was in the transition from the first to the second. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't feel like there were a lot of what you might call like computer tricks, you know, in this album. Like, a lot of it felt pretty much like these are the instruments playing, you know, acoustically, I guess you would say. Yeah. Was that kind of a conscious decision? Did you want it to have more of that sort of like natural sound and feel, or were you looking for chances to like pull in some of that, you know, computery stuff?
Maybe a bit of both. I think maybe we just got overexcited when we got the drums in and we started to record, and then it's like bass, and then it was like, oh, what about this? It goes like, and then like kind of coming back, like making it kind of pure spacey, like, and it kind of comes back in. It gets really, kind of goes really open and then comes really back together. Yeah. But like, it's just more just like kind of like that kind of happened naturally, almost like after in the kind of mixing stage. Like, how about we do that? Or like, because I cut out and I come back in, how about like I kind of glide back in? But yeah, without making it super like overproduced and like over like cooked even, or just, I guess maybe I was just a bit scared of doing that. But then I feel like if I was to do it again, I'd maybe have the whole band on the whole album and maybe try and do more of that more often. Make it more like kind of like, I guess like pop music on the bagpipes instead of like kind of trad music with a little hint to, as I said, like that kind of party.
Well, hey,
thing.
Next album, man. Next album. This one came out, was it on your 25th birthday?
Yeah.
So let's not wait till your 50th birthday. Speaking of numerology, right? Let's find another divisible that we can pull it in a little tighter because I want to hear some more. So, so I'm going to have links to the album itself and to your website in general, and to everything we've talked about in the show notes for anybody who wants to go dig them up and stuff. Tune book as well, right? I'll have links to all that kind of stuff. If you don't have it already, get this album. It's so good. I think we'll go out with it makes a lot of sense to go out with the, I guess it's tracks 11 and 12, right? They kind of work together at the end there. So we probably should say something about what the heck the Roke is. And
Go ahead. So the Roke is the full name of the tune is the Roke, the Row, and the Wee Pickle Tow, and it's an ancient tune, and it's actually the town tune of the town where I'm from, Linlithgow, and which is for anybody who's not from Scotland, Linlithgow is I guess a commuter town for Edinburgh and Glasgow. It's on the main train line between Edinburgh and Glasgow, and it's closer. Say it's 20 minutes from Edinburgh and half an hour from Glasgow by train, and maybe about similar by car as well. And so it's a small town where I grew up, and each year on the first Tuesday after the second Thursday in June, they let you compute that.
That's fun.
There's a day called the Marches Day, and this is quite a common thing. Like the riding of the marches, you check the town boundaries. It's quite a lowland thing. Yeah. It's on a Tuesday each year, and you get the day off school, which was always made it great when you were younger as well. But so they check the boundaries, and or there's like a group of people, and like all the community groups come out, and there's a procession and all this kind of stuff. But there's parades at 5 a.m, 6 a.m, 7 a.m to wake people up, and then there's the main parade at 11, and then we go and check the town boundary in like a place called Blackness, which is at the sea at the River Forth. The kind of that's the harbour, I guess, for Linlithgow historically. And so we go down there, and then you come back and you do a final procession at the end of the day, whatever. But part of these traditions,
that's a party day, jeez.
Yeah, it's pretty mad. It was just actually a week ago, but I wasn't there this year. I've tapped out now because I don't live there. I live in Glasgow, and my parents still live there, and they were there. But
when you gave the formula, I did start trying to calculate it, but I gave up before I figured out when the Tuesday was this month.
Yeah, so it was last Tuesday, but so as part of that, they've got like a town crier, a town drummer, and also a town piper. And I was the town piper for 10 years, and this was my first year not doing it. So I was town piper, and as part of my duties at town piper, you've got to wake up the town at 6 a.m. along with the town drummer. Nice. And so you play, and this is the tune that you play at that time, and it's because the second one, so everyone sings that back to you in the procession. So you have to play it all day. It becomes the town. It's the town tune, and that's it's the anthem of the day. So all the bands play it, so everyone sings along to it. Not all day, but like if you play it, people go mental for it. So so that's where that kind of came from. And as part of, I remember somebody once said to me as a super negative thing, you're just a piper. You've got no sense of identity. You've got no sense of kind of you're just like a pipe band piper guy. Like, so I remember that really annoying me once. So I was like, right, well, my album's going to be based on the fact that I'm from a place and it's got a tune and there's a tradition behind it. Yeah. So so obviously on the album I played the tune as it is on the morning. If you watch the video as well, you can see me playing around the number ones. That's around Linlithgow. That's the palace where Mary Queen of Scots was born, actually.
Oh yeah.
So like, and King James or whatever lived there after that. So So I'm piping round Linlithgow, and then it kicks in with the band, comes fully in, and that's the track change, I guess, on the album. But when you listen to them together, and then it kind of shows, I guess, it shows the old tune, but then we play a tune again, but like as a jig, and like, you know, with the full band, drums and everything.
It sounds so cool too.
It shows like how the music has moved forward. I guess that's the idea. It's show like where it came from and where it's going. If any kind of track does that, and then it finishes with my own tune that I wrote as well. So like, and it shows. So I guess I've started with like a really traditional tune. I've then arranged a traditional tune, and then I've got my own tune. That's kind of how the path of that track goes. And I think it's, and then that's when again we went ham on all the production stuff. We get electric guitar, and I'm playing like a riff the whole time on the pipes, and then the fiddle kind of takes over, and then it all kind of comes back together, and it's got all the hits and stuff towards the end. So it really is like a big kind of grand finale of the whole thing. Is this as well? I think anyway.
Has this album, or at least the recording of the Roke, become, you know, is it pretty well known back in your hometown? You know, like, do people play us on loudspeakers on the, the third Tuesday after the second Thursday?
Actually, do you know what they do? That's a thing. Yeah, people
Good. That's awesome.
I play it. Oh, we love that track, the Roke. It's great. And they watch the video. I saw last week, people were sharing the video of it, being like, you know, like, this is
that's
great.
My town.
That's my town, and it's on the day today. So no, it's cool. It's awesome. And I did a gig there eventually. Because it came out in 2020, as we say, but I did a gig there eventually last year because of COVID and things. And like lots of the local people came just to hear that track, and obviously it's the last one, so they had to sit through the rest of the gig.
Sit through everything else. That was smart on your part.
Save
that for the last one. You played it first. All the neighbors who knew you when you were a little kid and stuff, be like, "There we go, we've heard it."
Yeah, we've heard it. Right, bye. But
cool. I love thinking to myself too that, like, to some degree this album exists as like a Gordon Duncan's